Your brain just did something weird. You walked into a room and completely forgot why you were there. You were literally thinking about it 5 seconds ago. Now you're standing there staring at the wall, hoping the answer comes back. Then you walk back to where you came from and suddenly remember, your brain didn't break. It just glitched. And this isn't the only strange thing your brain does every day. You forget names seconds after hearing them. You open your phone and suddenly have no idea what you wanted to search. You lose your train of thought halfway through a sentence. And sometimes a word is right there in your brain, but you just can't say it. Let's start with the classic one. Forgetting why you entered a room. You're walking there with a specific goal in your head. Then you cross the doorway and suddenly, nothing. This can happen because your brain uses context to organize memories. When you enter a different environment, your brain can treat it like a new situation. It's almost like your brain pressed a reset button. That's why walking back to the original room can suddenly bring the thought back. The environment helps recreate the context where the thought started. So if this happens to you, don't panic. Sometimes your brain just needs the right context to find the memory again. Now, there's another one almost everyone has experienced. Someone introduces themselves and you hear their name perfectly. 5 seconds later, their name is completely gone. You know you heard it. You just can't pull it back. The problem is that hearing information isn't the same as storing it. If you're distracted, nervous, or thinking about what you're going to say next, the name may never get properly stored. Your brain is busy processing the conversation instead of holding on to the name. That's why repeating someone's name can actually help. Instead of just hearing it, you're giving your brain another chance to encode it. So yes, forgetting someone's name doesn't automatically mean you have a terrible memory. Now here's one that happens constantly. You pick up your phone for a reason, you unlock it, and suddenly you have absolutely no idea why. You scroll for a few seconds, hoping your brain will remember. Instead, you somehow end up watching a random video. This isn't always a memory problem. Sometimes your attention simply got pulled somewhere else. Your brain switched from your original goal to whatever grabbed your attention, and because phones are designed to constantly grab your attention, this happens easily. You came looking for one thing and ended up somewhere completely different. Then there's the worst one, losing your thought halfway through a sentence. You're explaining something perfectly, you know exactly where you're going, then one tiny distraction appears, and suddenly the entire thought disappears. You stop talking and think, wait, what was I saying? This happens because working memory has limited space. You're holding the idea while also processing everything happening around you. Add one distraction and the thought you're holding can disappear. That's why sometimes the best thing you can do is simply pause. Now let's talk about that word you absolutely know, but can't say. You know what it means, you know the first letter. You might even know how many syllables it has, but the actual word refuses to come out. This is called a tip of the tongue state. Your brain has part of the information, but the final word isn't fully accessible yet. And here's the funny part. The harder you force yourself to remember, the more frustrating it can become. Sometimes you stop trying, and the word suddenly comes back. And then there's the opposite problem. Remembering something you desperately wish you could forget. You're lying in bed doing absolutely nothing. Then your brain suddenly plays something embarrassing from 5 years ago. And you immediately think, why did my brain remember that? Your brain doesn't only store useful information. Emotional events can become especially memorable because they stand out. That's why an embarrassing moment can survive for years, even when everyone else involved has completely forgotten it. Your brain basically says, this felt important, so I'm keeping it. Unfortunately, your brain doesn't always ask whether you actually wanted to keep it. And that's the thing about these brain glitches. They're usually not signs that your brain is broken. Your brain is constantly managing attention, memories, emotions, and information. Sometimes that system simply doesn't work the way you expect. You forget why you entered a room, you forget someone's name, you lose your thought, forget what you wanted on your phone, or suddenly remember something embarrassing from years ago. It can feel random, but there's usually something happening underneath. So the next time your brain glitches, don't immediately think something is wrong with you. Just remember, your brain isn't perfect. It's doing a million things at once, and sometimes it glitches.